Hi everyone, good morning. Welcome to the Staying Productive While Working from Home webinar. My name is Abby Pichel and I will be your moderator for this session. Let me just remind you that this session will be recorded. So before we start, let's have a quick check-in. Could you please say hi and shout out which organization you're from using the chat box? So just click on the chat button below your screen and please make sure to send to everyone and not just the panelists. Okay, so while everyone is hyping, I also want to say hello to everyone who's watching this session via Facebook Live. So hello, Facebook attendees. Okay, oh, so many people typing. I see I see people from Bulacan, from Cainta Rizal, TIP from Manila, Cebu City, DepEd Tarlac City, um, FEU Manila, PPDO Cavite, Mandaluyong, Iloilo. I think I saw someone from the US a while ago, and from Parañaque. All right, it seems like it's a really good turnout today. I think we also have some attendees who are joining their first webinar with Trend Micro. So with that, I'll give a brief introduction about our company. So Trend Micro is a cybersecurity company that's been around for more than 30 plus years, leading the market with continuous innovations in virtualization, cloud, artificial intelligence, and IoT. Trend Micro has customers across the top Fortune 500, including 8 of the top 10 global Fortune 500. We are made up of more than 6,700 trenders who are all passionate about making the world a safer and better place for everyone. And now I'll move on to some reminders for our webinar. Here are the tools you could use to communicate with us. So you'll see both the chat and Q&A buttons at the bottom of your screen. Please use the chat section if you need to send us any feedback during the webinar. The Q&A section is where you could send in your questions. So you could post them anytime throughout the webinar, but in order to manage our limited time, they will be answered at the end of the session. Basic questions will be answered via chat, and the others will be answered live during the Q&A. Kindly include a slide number in your questions so we could reply to them faster. We'll also be using the upvote feature of Zoom. So if you have the same question as someone else, just click on the like button, and the questions with the most number of likes will be prioritized during the Q&A portion. Our speaker will be joined by other subject matter experts who will respond to your questions. You may also add details to a specific question by using the comment button there. We also want to hear from you, so a polling question will be posted from time to time. A separate window will pop up to show the poll, and then you could just select your answer from the list and then click submit. The results of the poll will be shown after, so once you're done viewing, you could just click close. At the end of the webinar, you will be automatically routed to a survey form. Kindly take the time to answer this short survey. Your feedback is very valuable to us and it will help us improve our succeeding webinars. And for those who answer the survey, they will receive a certificate of attendance for this webinar via email 1 week after this session. So as you can see on your screen, that is a sample certificate with my lovely name on it. Access to the recording of this session, key takeaways, succeeding webinar schedules will be announced on our Facebook pages at Trend Micro Careers Philippines and ClickRight. So again, that's Trend Micro Careers Philippines and ClickRight. You could also send us a message if you want to request a topic. So if that's something you want us to cover in our next webinar, so please like and follow our pages. And with that, it's now time for you to meet our speaker. So Ochi is a seasoned training and development consultant and coach with excellent client, customer, and project management skills. She has over 11 years of experience in planning, developing and implementing end-to-end training programs and curriculums with both leaders and team members as audience. Her areas of expertise include business communication, project management, problem and decision making, and workplace culture training, among others. She started her career as a broadcast editor for ABS-CBN and later moved to IBM as a voice and accent trainer, then eventually Trend Micro as a senior trainer for professional skills and development. Ochi took up communication arts from the University of the Philippines. She is a Six Sigma Green Belt certified practitioner and is currently taking her MBA at the Ateneo de Manila University. So, everyone, please give a warm welcome to Ochi.
Thank you, Abby. So, good morning, everyone. Let me just wait for Abby to share. Stop sharing the screen so I can share. So, good morning to everyone. Let me just also turn on my camera so that you can see that this is not recorded and this is live. Hello, everyone. I'm going to turn it back off so that we can save on the bandwidth. But again, good morning to everyone, not just for those who are joining via Zoom, but also to those who are joining via Facebook. I also want to give a shout out to my sisters who brought in a lot of their colleagues in this webinar. So, hi to Kat, to Polly, and Tine, and to all our attendees from the Philippine Sports Commission. We also have people from AGSMO and SLU's Hospital of the Sacred Heart. So those are the crowd that my sisters brought with them. So anyway, good morning. For today's topic, we're going to be talking about staying productive while working from home. I just want to run through all of our objectives before we start discussing. All right, so for our objectives, I'll introduce the concept of working from home. Like even before the pandemic happened, working from home or work from home has already been happening. So how did it came about or what is it all about? I'm going to discuss that. I'll also define what working from home means for us, like even before the pandemic happened. What is working from home all about and why was there a need for it and why do we have to do it right now? I'll also discuss the home working process, a bit of a pros and cons. Also, I've listed a couple of tips and techniques in staying mentally and physically healthy while we're working from home. And I'll also share with you guys a bunch of productivity tools that I've collated and actually personally worked for me so that they can help you utilize your productivity while you guys are working from home. So for the agenda, it's pretty much the same. I've just included a couple of subcategories for our discussion, such as the rise of working from home, what is working from home, and the like. So before we begin our topic or our discussion for today, I want to have a feel about our crowd. So I know that you guys get this question a lot whenever you have meetings, whenever your friends ask you, how are you doing? But personally, I want to know, Abby, if you can trigger our poll for today or our first poll for today. So our question is, how is your work from home situation? Right? So we've been working from home for roughly 6 months, right? So I want to know, how has it been going for you? Our choices are you happy about it? You don't have to go to the office, you don't have to commute. So are you happy that we're working from home? Next is, are you sad because you don't get to see your coworkers, you don't get to see your office crush? Are you sad about it? Are you frustrated because it feels like it's more stressful? Are you neutral, like sakto lang naman, neither sad, neither happy, you're just like in the middle? Or others, how are you feeling? All right, so let's just wait for the results. All right, so I see that a lot of you guys are neutral about the entire situation. We have 52%. We also have 24% who are happy that we're working from home. We have 17% who are frustrated. If you can just please type in the comment section for those who mentioned frustrated so that I can discuss more of it later on. And for those who are sad, if you're willing to share also the reason why you guys are sad about the situation, it would help me understand or focus more on what I discuss later on. All right, so thank you for sharing the results. But anyway, thank you guys for sharing all of your answers. Either you're feeling happy, sad, neutral, frustrated, that's all valid. I just want to start with the point that this is something unforeseen, this is unprecedented, and this is something that even our parents, our grandmothers, they haven't experienced this before. But yes, they have experienced the pandemic, but they haven't experienced working from home in the middle of a pandemic. This is the first of our time. So parang kahit anong nafe-feel mo, masaya ka man, malungkot, you're frustrated, those are all valid feelings because this is the first time we're experiencing this type of situation. So I would understand for those who are feeling sad, bakit ganun, or for those who are feeling frustrated because again, this is just the first time we're experiencing something like this. All right, so let's go on or move on to our discussion. Let's introduce working from home or what it's all about. So what is home working? Home working or work from home is a type of flexible working arrangement, which, depending on the agreement between employer and employee, can be also used in conjunction with other arrangements such as flexible working hours, working part-time or term-time working. So work from home, hindi lang siya ginagamit ngayon dahil may pandemic tayo. Even before we had this pandemic, there are already people who have been working from home. So you have your virtual assistants, they work from home full-time. You have your online English tutors, they also work from home full-time. So may mga ganong type of home working or work from home arrangement na even before the pandemic happened. Also, with the with the rising toxic traffic that's happening here in Manila, marami na ring offices yung nag-o-offer ng part-time work from home, like you go into the office 3 times a week and then twice you just work from home. Or sometimes other employers also, even if they have physical offices, they offer full-time work from home flexibility arrangement for their employees. So that's what home working is all about. But right now, there has been a surge when it comes to home working or working from home because of COVID-19. So you all know about this. We've been talking about COVID-19 ever since March when we had our first lockdown. So, in light of social distancing recommendations to slow the spread of the coronavirus health crisis, working from home has been highly recommended by the health department. So, for some people, working from home may be a regular practice, but for a lot of us, it's a new way of working, right? So it presents a lot of new challenges if you're trying to manage in a small space while also juggling family who are home as well, especially yung mga parents. I witnessed this firsthand. Yung mga parents na may mga kids sa bahay, tapos kailangan mag-meeting at the same time. So all of those are challenges that we have been facing ever since we started working from home. But again, for those who are in this webinar and are still working from home, we're very lucky because our employees or our companies are allowing us to work from home because again, recommendation lang siya by the health department. So for some companies, yung mga ibang employees nila required pa rin na pumasok sa office even with the recommendation. So for if you guys are working from home, pat on the back because you're very lucky that our employers are allowing us to work from home. So I just want to share a few facts about working from home. Number one is some occupations that already employ a work from home type of arrangement. So you guys can see here that we have 18% of the service industry are already working from home. We also have 14% of the chunk coming from management, business, and the financial industry. We also have 13.9% for office and admin support, 11.9% for production, transportation, and material moving, 11.1% for sales, 10.8 for education, the legal community services, arts, and media. So I know that we have a lot of teachers in this webinar. So already 11% na kaagad sa ating education industry are already employing a work from home type of arrangement. We also have our healthcare practitioners and technicians at 5.5%. We have computer engineering and sciences at 5.2% and the rest at 9%. So, ganun karaming industries na yung nag-employ ng work from home. Later on, I'll discuss bakit ang daming chunk na ng mga trabaho or mga roles yung pwedeng gawin sa bahay or practically anywhere. So other fun facts, this is based on, not based right now during the pandemic, but this was on a survey in 2019. So we surveyed a couple, or there was a survey on a couple of workers, and they noted one of the greatest thing that they mentioned about working from home is the increase in productivity. So 77 people reported that, or 77% of the surveyed population reported that they had greater productivity. So mas marami silang nagagawa sa bahay. 24% also mentioned that they were willing to work longer hours than normal to accomplish more. So for some, for example, before when they were in the office type of setting and someone would ask them to do overtime, they would probably shrug or parang, OT na naman. So, but when they were working from home, 24% mentioned that they were willing to work longer hours. And 30%, on the other hand, said that they accomplished more in less time. So other benefits that this surveyed population mentioned is that they were more satisfied when they were working from home. So 45 mentioned that they got more sleep. So for this one, I can attest because I don't know, it feels like a long time ago, pero if naaalala nyo kung gaano kalala yung traffic sa Manila, right? So I teach new hire or new hire engineer program in our company, and I have new hire students, parang 3 hours yung biyahe nila papunta sa office, tapos 3 hours din pabalik. So imagine that's 6 hours that you take out of the equation and you get to spend it on yourself. Kaya it's understandable why 45% got more sleep. Also, we have 35% also got more exercise. Again, kung imagine mo, kahit hindi 6 hours, kahit like 2 hours or 3 hours, you have that extra time. You have to, you have it for yourself. You can do a lot of things with that for yourself. And 42% ate healthier. So, ito siguro yung mga ano natin, no? Yung mga nagpo-post sa TikTok, mga maraming bagong recipe na na-discover nila. If you guys remember the hype of the dalgona coffee, yan, mga natututunan natin online because we have more time for ourselves. And a lot of mentioned that they ate healthier because probably they have home cooked meals compared to when you were working in the office. Kasi if you guys are in an office setting, especially if you are in a business district, most of the time we're surrounded by fast food joints, right? So our office, for example, pagbaba mo, ang dalang lang ng mga home cooked food or meals. Meron lang kaming parang manang sa office, but essentially we're surrounded by Bonjon, Jollibee, McDonald's. Everything is pretty much fast food. So if my 1 hour ka lang for break in the office, you just like grab the fastest thing that you can have, right? But if you're at home, you have more time to prepare healthier meals. So aside from satisfaction at work, they also mentioned, or the surveyed population also mentioned, work-life balance. 53% mentioned that they were less stressed. 51% also said that they spent more time with their significant others and their family. 52% were less likely to take off time when working remotely, and 44% had more positive attitudes. So those are just some of the fun facts about working from home. But again, there are two sides to a coin, and we're going to be discussing the downsides later on. So, bakit ba nagkaroon ng rise of remote work? Or bakit biglang nagkaroon ng work from home, di ba? When we're all doing fine before it, or okay naman na sa office tayo pumapasok, bakit biglang nagkaroon ng work from home? So, number one reason is, or why we have a rise in remote work is because technology is making it easier for some roles to be performed anywhere. So, mostly ito yung mga back-end roles or yung mga hindi frontline. They don't have to speak to a client, they don't have to speak to a customer or to an audience. Pwede nila siyang gawin practically anywhere. So again, ito yung mga professions like I've mentioned before. You have your online English tutor. As long as you have a working laptop, a working internet, or great internet, pwede kang magturo kahit saan. Same goes for virtual assistants. As long as you can manage your clients' schedules, bookings, and everything else, pwede kang mag-work kahit sa beach spa and all. Same goes for developers. As long as you can perform your task with your laptop and a working internet connection, kahit saan, pwede na talagang magtrabaho. Kasi nga, technology is making it easier for us. So this is what you call the digital nomads. Sila yung parang they can travel or practically, ito yung mga pinapromote ng iba, parang travel while you work, mga ganong type of arrangement. Kasi as long as may internet ka at nagagawa naman yung trabaho mo, that's fine. So we're veering away from the traditional 9 to 5 or 8 to 5 or 9 to 6 type of office setting. If companies are being more lenient right now, especially startups, if kaya mo namang i-perform yung task mo from anywhere, they're good with it. Another reason is more employees are asking for some flexibility in where they work and the hours they work. So both inside and outside of the organization's hours, largely so they can better manage their personal lives. So a lot of employees are also asking for more flexibility when it comes to managing their personal lives. So, hindi lang working from home yung nagkakaroon ng rise. If you guys notice, meron na rin tayong tinatawag na flexi. For example, you ask your friend and you ask them, what is your shift like? 9 to 5 ka ba? Or 96 ka ba? Or 8 to 5? And then they tell you, flexi. Ibig sabihin kahit anong oras pwede silang pumasok as long as they get to have, or they get to produce an output for their bosses, right? So, yun din yung isa sa mga reasons kung bakit nagkakaroon ng rise of remote work because people want more flexibility with how they want to manage their personal lives. Yung iba may mga passion projects, either schooling, traveling, and whatnot. So those are just some of the examples. Others are increasing number of employees with responsibilities caring for a family, including the elderly. So yung iba naman, mas gusto magkaroon ng time with family, with kids, with their parents and siblings, ganyan. So mas gusto nila mag-work from home. And I think a lot of people can relate to this. rising costs of commuting. So if naaalala niyo pa, parang ang tagal na, no? Pero parang kailan lang naman since huli tayo nag-commute. But if you guys remember, kailan ba? Mga February or January, naaalala niyo ba yung Grab? Baka hindi niyo na sila naaalala kasi lagi tayong nasa bahay, di ba? But I remember when I used to use Grab, my house is roughly 3 kilometers away from the office. So medyo malapit lang, di ba? So my house is in Mandaluyong and my office is in Ortigas. Tapos, ang usual talaga na pamasahe ko lang, kasi malapit lang naman siya, 110 pesos. So that's fair. I can take Grab papunta pa uwi because I bring a laptop. So medyo ayaw ko yung mga public transportation because it's delikado. Nakakatulog kasi ako sa bus. So I take Grab. But kapag surge, ang nagiging price, umaabot siya, lalo na yung mga 8 a.m., ganyan pagpapasok, umaabot ng 400, 300, yung mga surge. Lalo na kapag payday Friday. So, payday Friday, tapos biglang umulan, tapos nagka-sale sa Mega Mall. My house is relatively close to Mega Mall. So, whenever there is a sale, nagkakaroon talaga ng surge. So, yung nagbubook ako dun. So, minsan na maabot pa ng 500. So, that's how much you have to spend just so you can get to the office. Lalo na pag yung mga umulan talaga, tapos wala kang masakyan, di ba? That's why it is very enticing for people to actually look for remote work because if you're staying at home and you're just getting your job done at home, wala kang ginagastos sa pamasahe. So imagine the amount of money I can save if hindi ako nag-Grab every day. So sabihin na natin roughly 500 a day yung nagagastos ko sa Grab. Take that away, may 2.5 na kaagad ako. 2.5 ba? Tama. Medyo hina ako sa math. Pero 2.5, di ba? Tama sa isang linggo, 2.5 na yung masasave ko. So it's very enticing for a lot of people to do remote work because it doesn't just save us a lot on time, but it saves us a lot on money as well. So, yeah. Now, before I proceed to the process of homeworking, we have another polling question. If you guys are ready to answer, Abby, can you launch our polling question? Has working from home made your job easier? So, kanina I asked you guys how you were feeling about working from home, but essentially, napadali ba yung pagtatrabaho nyo now that you guys are working from home? So options are not really like, marami pa rin paghihirap or marami pa rin challenges. Number 2 is definitely, sobrang mas madali na yung pagtatrabaho nyo ngayon na nasa bahay na. So I want to have a feel so I would know how to proceed with the discussion later on. All right, so I think we can end the polling question and let's see. All right. Okay, so this is very interesting kasi earlier, ang daming neutral, tas ang dami ding happy, diba? When I was asking about the emotions that you were feeling now that we're working from home. But now, you're saying that 67% are saying that hindi talaga siya napadali. 33% naman are saying that napadali naman kahit papano. All right, so those are all valid. Again, i-discuss natin later. For those who said not really, kung paano nyo mas mapapadali yung pag-work sa bahay. And for those who said, definitely, I'll also add a couple more tips para mas mapagaan pa yung pag-work niya sa bahay. So let's talk about the homeworking process. So first, the pros and cons. So again, kanina medyo hati yung poll natin. That's because working from home does have its pros and cons. Number 1 is you can become more independent. Again, as a teacher, as an educator, or as a student, whatever you are, pag mag-isa ka lang sa bahay, you need help on a task that you're completing. As in, you just have to rely on yourself, right? Compared to if you're in office environment, or if sa school ka, or if sa nasa faculty office ka, ganyan, meron kang palaging pwedeng pagtanungan, right? Even if pwede naman nating i-chat yung mga kasama natin or ka-office natin, mas may effort pa rin siya kumpara sa katabi mo lang, tas kakalbitin mo lang, like, uy, ano nga gagawin dito? So, if you're working from home, you tend to become more independent. Next is, you tend to get more work done as well kasi less distractions, right? Like, if you remember in the office, we can't avoid this. May mga office chika, chichismis muna tayo bago mag-work, or tignan mo muna kung nandiyan na ba yung crush mo, tayo-tayo ka. So, you tend to have a lot of distractions. So, pag sa bahay, wala, di ba? Walang office crush, walang makichismisan. Siguro mga parents mo lang or siblings. But essentially, when it comes to work, it's just you, so you tend to get more work done. Communication also gets better because if you want to put a message across, kailangan mo siyang i-communicate, right? Your nonverbal actions won't suffice because we're working through a mediated communication, which is our laptop and internet and a tool. Minsan Zoom, minsan Google Meets, minsan Microsoft Team meeting, ganyan. So you have to communicate everything that you want to put out across, right? So mapatagalog mo niya ng mapa-English, it always gets better because you're forced to articulate what you're feeling. We can't just rely on nonverbal communication because you have to articulate everything. Next is, I mentioned this earlier, it saves a lot of time and money. Sa commute pa lang, di ba? Sa pag-ready pa lang, mag-aantay ka ng bus, mag-aantay ka ng jeep. Di ba, ang tagal din bago makasakay. So all of that time and money we save when we're working from home, and improved work-life balance because before, all of the things that we were spending on commuting, on waiting for the jeepney, ganyan, waiting for a trike, or antay ka makauwi, lahat yun, nasuspend na natin sa sarili natin. But on the downside, we also have a lot of disadvantages when it comes to working from home. Number one is ito laging common problem that is being that is being told to me by my students. There is no physical separation between work and leisure time, which is true because before, physically, meron tayong dalawang spaces. Meron tayong bahay, that's where we relax, that's where we sleep, that's where we do our passion projects, where we do our hobbies, and we have a physical office kung saan puro work, work, work lang talaga. So you get some work done. Yung iba minsan nag-uwi ng trabaho sa bahay. But again, I wouldn't recommend that. Pero you get the point, right? There is a physical separation. Pag sa bahay, alam mo na tulog lang, relax lang. Pag sa office, you know that it's time to get work done. So when it comes to working from home, those two things get muddled because the same space where you work is now the same space where you also sleep. I mean, yes, you may have a separate work area, but essentially, it's the same space, right? Parang tatayo ka lang ng konti, higaan mo na, tatayo ka lang ng konti, work mo na naman ulit. So, when nawawalan ng physical separation, feeling mo this one space that used to be your zen space is now also being used for work. So, nagkakaroon ng yun nga, namomodel lahat doon in one space. Next is unstable technology platform. So this is very common, especially here in the Philippines. I've seen a lot of my colleagues cursing at Converge, Sky, lalo na yung Sky. I've been getting a lot of people complain about Sky, PLDT, ganyan. So now that we're working from home, our technology platforms are very important. So yung internet, kung hindi siya magko-connect, of course, we can't get our messages across. So very important siya. At hindi lang yung technology platform na internet, but also laptops, right? Like, yes, for some, we do have laptops, but they're not all reliable. So sa Twitter nga, nakikita ko, I have been seeing a surge of requests from students asking for donations para sa laptop, para sa phone, so they can do distance learning. So yung mga ganun, it's a con of working from home because not everyone has a reliable laptop or a device. Next is little to no human interaction. So for those who live with their families, that's well and good because at least may human interaction pa kayo, di ba? But for those who live alone, there's little to no human interaction. Zoom is practically the only thing or whatever tool that you use. Yun na lang yung pang-connect mo sa other people, di ba? So virtually you're just like really alone. If you have pets, that's great. Pero if wala, then you're practically left to yourself with no human interaction except what you get from your laptop or your devices, right? And lastly is the pressure to get more work done. So later on, i-explain ko bakit mas napapressure tayong mas magtrabaho kesa kapag nasa office. All right. So other struggles that people have mentioned when it comes to working remotely is unplugging after work. So this is in connection to not having a physical separation between work and leisure and relaxation. Kasi parang nasa bahay na lang tayo, di ba? So parang feeling mo every time, 24 hours kang nasa trabaho. So later, I'll teach you guys how to manage this. Pero ayan, 22% of the surveyed population mentioned that nahihirapan silang mag-unplug after work. 19% also mentioned loneliness. Kasi again, as I've mentioned, for those who live alone, nakakausap na lang nila yung mga tao sa laptop or sa devices. Lalo na ngayong pandemic, bawal talaga tayong lumabas, right? 17% also mentioned a hard time with collaboration and communicating with others. 10% distractions at home. So ito, witness din ako dito. We have people na when we're in a meeting, may mga tumatahol na aso, may mga chicken, ganyan. So I remember in one of my classes, I have a student, tapos her house is literally beside a church. So parang one time, hindi ata siya, nakalimutan niya mag-mute. So parang one time, nag-exam kami, we had an assessment. Tapos biglang tumunog yung kampana dun sa church. Parang feeling namin kailangan na yung mag-sign off the cross kasi parang feeling namin kailangan na magsimba. So, yung mga ganung bagay. So, 10% mentioned that those are just some of the struggles, our distractions at home, yung mga kids running around, crying, all of those. 8% also mentioned being a different time zone than teammates. So, yan yung mga nasa global companies wherein they have counterparts in, say, the US or Europe or other parts of Asia Pacific na iba yung time zone. 8% mentioned staying motivated. It's hard to stay motivated when you're working from home. So this is understandable because halimbawa, dati sa office, for example, in our office, kapag merong may birthday, we used to have like a birthday blowout kind of thing. Kakain lang kami sa labas. And yes, it's non-work related, but it helps keep the team stay motivated because aside from work, there is something else that we can bond on, right? Ngayon, parang purely work na lang, 'di ba? Kaya importante din when you check in with your teammates or your colleagues na hindi non-work related because those things actually help them stay motivated. And then we have 7% mentioned taking vacation time. Well, I think in our time right now, mahirap talaga because there is really nowhere we can go that is safe at hindi rin siya recommended, diba? So that's one of the struggles also. 4% other reasons, and we have 3% finding reliable Wi-Fi. So meron pa nga tayong mga post na nakikita sa Facebook like yung kailangan pa nilang pumunta sa bundok, yung mga ganun, para lang makakuha ng signal. So all of those are struggles with not just working remotely, but learning remotely as well. Right? So I want to ask so that I also know which one to focus on. Which work from home struggle can you relate to? So, Abby, if you can trigger our poll. So, alin dito yung pinaka nakaka-relate kayo? Para mas madidiscuss ko siya later on and I can focus more on the tips that you guys can do. So, una ba is unplugging after work, distractions, lack of human interaction, staying motivated, or unreliable Wi-Fi. So, alin dyan yung mga pinaka nakaka-relate kayo? Personally, for me, even before creating this module, actually even until now, I have a hard time unplugging after work because basta it's just like really stressful for us, right? So, let's end the poll and then let's see. Saan kayo pinaka nakaka-relate? Okay, so we have a huge chunk of our population. All right, so may i-share ako sa inyo mamaya na tool. I hope it can help with the distractions, but we have a huge chunk of the population mentioning distractions. We have unreliable Wi-Fi, ang dami pa rin talaga. We have staying motivated, lack of human interaction, and unplugging after work. All right, that's great. So let's now talk about the tips that I can share with you guys. So staying healthy, not just physically but mentally healthy while working from home. So for all of the tips that I'm going to be sharing with you guys, medyo basic lang sila, but it involves a lot of self-control and discipline because later discuss ko kung bakit. But let me just share the tips with you guys. I have rounded up 5 tips on how you can stay mentally and physically healthy while still being productive. So number 1 is create a home office, maintain a routine, create boundaries, utilize tools, take breaks, and move around. So they're very simple, but they involve a lot of self-control and discipline. So number 1, let's go with create a home office. So bakit kailangan natin ng home office? So aminin na natin, most of the time, we try to work wherein there is a space na sobrang komportable tayo, di ba? So we have the bed, we have the couch, yung nakahiga ka, or yung comfortably nakaupo ka. But one bad thing about it is, if you try and combine working with your favorite home activities, you're not gonna be very motivated to get work done, right? Kasi masyado kang komportable eh. So in fact, you may find yourself deep in the latest episode of your latest K-drama, yung mga ano dyan, it's okay not to be okay, ganyan. Minarathon mo na siya, and only to realize that you haven't actually looked at your computer once kasi baka dun ka actually nagna-Netflix sa office laptop mo, or baka you're super glued to whatever it is that you're watching na nakalimutan mo, shocks, natapos na yung 8 hours, tapos wala ka namang nagawa, right? So, for us to be productive at home, it's necessary. Actually, it's a must na meron tayong home office. It doesn't have to be like super setup katulad sa mga movies na may separate na room ka pa, tapos doon ka nag-home office. It can just be a simple corner na may decent table and a chair that's comfortable enough for you to work but not too comfortable enough for you na makakatulog ka habang nag-work ka. So when making your home office or when you're decorating your home office, it helps to make it look like an office talaga. So you have your laptop or your desktop, you have all of your tools accessible to you. So if kailangan mo ng pen, dapat nasa tabi mo lang siya, yung printer, all of the cords, chargers, second monitor, and everything else that you need, dapat katabi mo lang siya. So one other tip that I would like to share when you guys are creating your home office is importante siya. As, the bullets have mentioned, dedicated space at home, 100% free of distractions, hindi yung malapit sa TV kasi mas magugulo ka sa TV. Something that you can set rules with your family, accessibility to tools, and again, this is very important. Don't work where you sleep. Again, make sure that it's not too comfortable. I just want to share a story about when we were just starting to work from home. So I think it was like around March 15, right? Everyone's excited na parang, yay, we get to work from home. Hindi na ako babangon ng maaga, ganyan-ganyan. So I was excited. I felt the same way. So when I was working from home, all I did was like I have this like small computer table that you can put on the bed. So doon ko lang nilalagay yung laptop ko. So hindi na talaga ako nag-ready as in, I just wake up, get some work done, tapos pag done ako sa work, ihiga na ako, tapos pag Netflix na ako, tapos if may nag-chat, mag-work, ganyan, and then I get some work done, tapos pag Netflix na ulit. So that was my routine. I just get up from the bed, bababa lang ako para kumain. But essentially, I did everything on the bed. And as you guys may have predicted, it didn't turn out well. It just caused burnt out. I was just burnt out all the time. In the long run, hindi rin siya maganda kasi, again, wala nang physical separation between kung saan ka nag-work at kung saan ka natutulog. So ang nangyari is, halimbawa, it's like 10 o'clock in the evening and I'm preparing to go to bed, right? And nasa tabi ko lang yung laptop. Pag may nag-chat sa Zoom, of course, I'll hear the tone and I'm like, okay, online na din naman ako or gising na din naman ako. Bakit hindi ko pa siya replyan? So, ganun yung nangyari until like mga 1 a.m. may nag-chat pa sa akin sa work and then I would just reply because I would think na parang, okay, online na rin naman ako eh. So, ba't hindi ko na-replyan, right? But again, that is very unhealthy. So, dapat may delineation between your physical space, kung saan ka talaga nag-work at kung saan ka natutulog. So what I did or what was effective for me was I set up like a small table. Nasa kwarto ko pa rin siya, pero it's not on my bed anymore. Sa gilid lang siya ng room, and that's where I put my laptop, that's where my second monitor is. I also put my pens, all of my work materials, work booklets ko. Andun lang siya sa tabi ng table or andun lang siya sa table. And when I have to work, parang yun yung workstation ko. I just like log in 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. and get some work done. But once 6 p.m. comes in, I turn off my laptop and it's time for other things. Leisure, relaxation, other things, working out, mga ganun. Pero hindi na ako nagtatrabaho. One thing also that helped me when I was creating my home office was that I turned off my Zoom tone kasi it became a trigger. Parang every time naririnig ko siya, kailangan ko mag-reply, ganun. So it wasn't healthy in the long run. So when I created my home office, it's like I set up a physical boundary between, pag nandito ako, work lang talaga, hindi ako magsha-Shopee, hindi ako maglalazada, hindi ako mag-K-drama or whatever, Netflix. It's just purely work. So you have to have a lot of self-control and self-discipline. Start pa lang sa pag-create ng home office, right? So make sure that you guys don't work where you sleep because, again, the desire to do the things that you enjoy the most. Siyempre, ano bang mas nakaka-entice, di ba? Halimbawa, nasa kama ka. Anong mas nakaka-entice? Matulog o mag-work? Siyempre, matulog, di ba? So everyone loves to sleep. So your desire to sleep is more powerful. So just make sure that you guys don't work where you sleep, right? So that's the first tip. Second tip is you have to maintain a routine. So one thing that I think nakalimutan natin nung simula mo mag-work from home tayo is parang kahit kailan pwede ka namang mag-work eh. So parang ganun yung mindset, right? So what we did was we just get a lot, everything done all at the same time. Nawala na tayo ng routine. Or contrary before, nung nasa office tayo, alam mo may pasok ka ng 8, so gigising ka ng mga 5, mag-ready ka, mag-breakfast, commute, and everything else. Yun yung mga things na nawala. So in a sense, it's kind of bad because as humans, we are creatures of habit. And when our routine is suddenly disrupted, we go through several emotions such as helplessness, despair, anger, and frustration. So yung ibang mga nalulungkot, pwedeng dahil yon sa nawalan ka ng routine. Nawawalan ka ng semblance of normalcy kasi parang, oh shucks, we're in quarantine day, XXX. Hindi mo na alam kung anong day of quarantine na tayo, right? So in order to get back control, you'll have to mimic your previous routine as close as possible. So halimbawa, if ang shift mo nun sa office is 9 to 6 and nagigising ka na ng say 7, ganun pa rin yung gawin mo. If hindi mo na kailangan mag-commute, then you can dedicate the extra time to say work out, prepare for yourself, or prepare, get ready, kahit na mag-ayos ka lang ng konti. And then, pag 9, at least, may semblance of normalcy ka na, okay, nag-ayos ako and everything else, right? So, like, example for me, my shift at work before was 5 a.m. I always choose the 5 a.m. shift kasi walang traffic, right? So, before 8 a.m. yung favorable shift, but really, I just choose 5 a.m. So, after that, I would, create the same routine, just wake up at the same time and just do the same activities that I was kind of doing before work. So, yung mga iba nagdagdag pa ako, like may mga konting workout, ganyan. Pero konting-konti lang talaga. So, for those who have kids also, or may mga bagets or bata sa bahay, it's also very important that you don't just have a routine for yourself, but for the kids as well, lalo na yung mga wala pang school. So, for those who have kids, keeping the same routine will be very critical for your children. Otherwise, they will perceive time at home as if it were just time off and they will not be motivated to learn. Kasi wala namang routine, di ba? Like ikaw, wala ka namang routine. May kita nila, wala ka din namang ginagawa. So parang bakit sila required silang magkaroon ng routine, right? So it's very important for grown-ups to have a routine. Same goes for the kids because if wala silang routine, it'll make it harder for you to help them stay on track in finishing their schoolwork, lalo na kapag nagkaroon na ng distance learning. Kasi as far as I know, for some, we already have classes starting, pero yung iba sa October pa, right? So essentially what I'm saying is it's very important for grown-ups and the kids to have a routine, right? So next tip that I can share is create boundaries. So create boundaries and use that extra time to do something else. So one of the biggest mistakes people do when they work from home is to work more, right? So nandito to sa cons natin kanina. So one of the reasons a lot of people work more when they're working from home is because nagigilty sila. They feel guilty that they're working remotely and they don't want their boss or coworkers to think that they are slacking off or they don't know what they do with the extra time that they have. So yung iba parang ayaw nilang isipin ng boss nila na parang, oh shucks, baka isipin ng boss ko wala akong ginagawa sa bahay or baka isipin ng mga coworker ko wala akong ginagawa sa bahay. So ang tendency is nagkakaroon sila ng false sense of urgency to just get a lot of things done. Not necessarily important things, but they just tend to do a lot more things na hindi naman maayos or hindi naman talaga siya targeted. So when we're creating boundaries, it helps that you guys manage what your output should be for the day. So you have to set your expectations with the boss na parang kahit hindi ka online, this is your output, or you have to set up a system between you and your coworkers. Kasi hindi naman pwedeng all the time na nag-work ka, lagi kayo nakachat sa isa't isa, di ba? You also have to get real work done. So to avoid false sense of urgency, what you have to do is really just set up your agenda for the day, be transparent with your boss, what your output should be for the end of the day, and just go about it. Pwede ding hindi siya daily kasi yung iba nagkakaroon ng Zoom fatigue, like if they have to communicate everything through a mediated form of communication. So pwedeng sabihin mo na magkakaroon ka na lang ng end of week updates or yung iba end of month updates. It depends, but hindi mo kailangang mag-work ng mas mahabang oras just because you feel guilty na baka iniisip nila na hindi ka nag-work, right? So, and especially in our time right now, people are mentally and physically strained. You have to find ways not to work harder, but have to work smarter, right? You have to devise a certain, a certain method with your boss, how you can be more effective or paano niya makikita yung progress mo without you having to work more. Right? Meron naman tayong reports, ganyan. So there are a lot of ways on how you can create boundaries. Kasi, again, if you tend to work more, you tend to get stressed more, you have more anxiety about a lot of things. Kaya you have to create time boundaries. If done ka na sa work, if it's just 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., done na sa work. So, I just want to share also, I get a lot of complaints na parang mas matagal kasi yung time na kailangan gamitin ngayon na we're working from home. I understand that, but you have to communicate that also to your stakeholders, to your superiors, to your bosses. Kasi kung kakanyuhin lang natin na parang ang daming time kailangan, they wouldn't realize na kailangan i-adjust yung mga deliverables just because we're saying it, right? Pero it is true, essentially, mas mahabang oras talaga yung tinitake up kapag nagtatrabaho tayo sa bahay. Like for me, for example, when I have to prepare for training, when I was in the office, I'll just take like 10 minutes and I'm good to go. I can present because I have a projector, I have a classroom ready for me to teach, all of my tools are there. Pero pag sa bahay, grabe minsan inaabot ako ng half a day or minsan one day kasi I have to set up my second monitor, I have to print, I have to make sure my internet connection is good, my speaker, ang daming pine-prepare kasi kapag nasa bahay tayo, parang tayo lang yung gumagawa talaga lahat. Tayo na yung office, tayo na yung admin, tayo na yung IT, tayo na lahat, 'di ba? So, if again you need more time when it comes to completing your tasks just because we're working from home, you have to communicate that also. In creating time boundaries, communication is the key so that it goes both ways. Naiintindihan ng boss mo na parang yes, you need more time so that they unload unnecessary tasks that you have to do within the day at naiintindihan nila na okay, mas matagal pala talaga yung kailangan na time na yung work from home, so hindi kayo in-overwork. All right. So matatanda naman na tayo lahat and we're all grown ups. Communication should be something that would benefit us and not scare us out of, being productive or doing the jobs that we should be doing. All right. So that's about creating time boundaries. Again, just stick to your shift. One thing I learned about working from home is if you don't, it just really gets taxing and toxic in the long run. Mas mababurn out lang kayo. So just make sure that you guys are, staying within the time that you should be. And pag leisure time na, go spend time on your passion project. Yung mga iba, di ba? Ang daming natututunan on the side. Like, one other hobby that I have, I'm not sure if I'm successful with it because I've killed like 5 plants, but I've become a plantita all throughout the quarantine. I've bought myself a couple of plants, pero namatay yung 5. I think 5 yata namatay dun sa plants. But that is something I dedicate my time on aside from work. So yung mga iba din nagiging mga TikTok chefs. Yan, kung gusto niyo matutong mag-TikTok then that's all fine and good. Maraming recipes that you guys can learn about. But essentially, create time boundaries. Always time for work, yung dedicated lang talaga. And it's aside from that, or if done na yung shift, do something for yourself or do something for that'll enrich your personal and professional growth. All right. And then next is, I'm very excited for all of these because I've collated them specially to help you guys make your jobs easier. Utilize tools. So I'm going to be sharing some of my favorite tools that help me vastly. Yung mga iba dito ginagamit ko na sila even before we started working from home. And I just really want to share with you guys so that it'll make your lives easier. Number one is Canva. So I think a lot of people already know what Canva is all about. It's also the tool that I use to create this presentation. So kung medyo nakukitan kayo dun sa presentation, I used Canva to create that. So Canva is a graphic design platform that allows users to create social media graphics, presentations, posters, and other visual content. So you can choose from a lot of professionally designed templates. Tapos, if hindi ka creative, just like me, ang daming templates dyan sa Canva. Tapos, ilalagay mo na lang yung content mo and it's very easy. So primarily, Canva comes in free. For me, I'm just using the free version. Pero ang dami pa rin free talaga na pwedeng gamitin. But one tip that I think you guys may not know, if you're an educator, meaning teacher ka or nagtuturo ka, you have a professional license, or if you're a student, you can actually avail for Canva Pro for free. Kasi mahal siya. I think parang mga 1,000 yata yung kailangan mabayaran. For Pro, Pro is ang daming added features that you guys can toggle on and off. So, but if you're a student or if you're a teacher, you can avail for it for free. So, ang kailangan mo lang isubmit is, I think your parang license or something. Basta you guys go ahead, check Canva. Tapos may mga requirements doon. Isasubmit nyo lang siya and then you get Canva Pro for free. So, pero kahit yung free version lang din naman, or yung basic version niya, marami ka nang magagawa. So if you guys are sending out like workbooks to your students, Canva has templates for that already. So mas mapapadali yung buhay mo, lalo na ngayong work from home. Less time on the laptop because you already have templates that are working for you. All right, so that's one. Next is this is also one of my favorite tools. So PIKTOCHART is a lot like Canva as well. PIKTOCHART is an online tool for creating infographics, presentations, slides, reports, flyers, posters, and more for both print and online audiences. So with PictoChart naman, you can combine charts, graphs, text, and built-in graphics so that you can make your presentation more aesthetically pleasing. So personally for me, when I am in meetings, I hate looking at graphs because they're like, oh my god, the worst thing ever, diba? Parang, or the most boring thing ever. I don't like looking at them because they're just so bland. So PictoChart, it helps me make my presentation or my charts. I use it specifically for charts kasi I work with a lot of data. So if I want to make it more pleasing, ito yung ginagamit ko. So halimbawa, kailangan nyo mag-share ng pie chart or in a graph or like an infographic or an analysis. PictoChart is the perfect tool for you. So what I do is I combine PictoChart and Canva because especially for online or distance learning, we can only get our students' attention so much, right? So whenever I get someone's attention or my students' attention, I want to make sure that my presentations are always enticing. So ito yung ginagamit kapag may sobrang boring na data akong kailangan i-present and I want to make sure that everyone is glued because even if the data is boring, it's relevant. PictoChart is your go-to tool. So if you guys haven't checked that out, go puntahan nyo na. May paid option din siya, pero for the free version, you can already create a lot. So that's great, right? So that's PictoChart. Next is Trello. So Trello is also one of my favorite tools. So Trello naman on the other hand, web-based Kanban style list-making tool siya to make managing your projects and organizing things from making tasks, the timelines, to even personal things like recipes easier. So for this one, you can create certain boards. Para siyang, how do I say it? If I were to compare it to an app, para siyang Pinterest, pero for work. O, di ba? Parang ang sarap gamitin, di ba? So, for example, gumagawa kayo ng lesson plan or a lot of people are pulling in on a project, you can use Trello para you can put a certain project. And if you guys can see here, you can put like a list of things that you have to do, things that you're currently doing, and things that are already done. So mas madali nating makita kung, oh, bakit itong project na to hindi siya gumagalaw. You can just check all of the boards that are marked red. Ibig sabihin, dun siya na-stop. And when you click on the red, meron din siyang corresponding na accountable person. So makikita mo na parang, na-stop siya dito kay John kasi hindi pa niya ito nagagawa. So it's easier. Especially now that we're working from home. Di ba before sa mga meeting, mas madali sa atin kasi you can write on a board, tapos mag-assign ka ng task. But now, ang hirap mag-planning, right? Like yung mga lesson planning and everything else. It actually helps that we have a virtual storyboard that we can look at para malaman natin, okay, looking at the bigger picture, nasaan na ba yung progress ng project natin or where are we going, right? So this one helps me visualize everything, like where are we stuck at? What are we doing? Who hasn't done their tasks yet? Right? So you guys can use the same para mas mapadali din yung buhay-buhay niyo when it comes to monitoring your projects, monitoring a lot of tasks, and such. All right. Next is Focus Booster. So ito personally, all of these apps are my personal recommendations, by the way. Personally, again, for Focus Booster, nag-work siya sa akin because I easily get distracted. So what Focus Booster is all about is it works on the premise of 25-minute work sessions followed by 5-minute breaks. So for the person, according to the person who created this type of time management framework, ang tawag sa kanya is the Pomodoro technique. So the Pomodoro technique is a time management framework that will improve your focus and productivity, and it encourages you to work within the time you have rather than struggle it. So halimbawa, before, pag nag-work ako, say on a day, I'm just like logging on my laptop at 8 o'clock. Tapos pag may kailangan akong gawin, I'm like, pwede pa naman mamaya eh. And then I realized that it's like 5 p.m. and I haven't done anything. But when I started using Focus Booster, so I put in a task, right? And then I start a timer. It times me for 25 minutes. And I feel like, hindi naman ako nagmamadali, but I feel like I have to be at my most productive when it comes to the task. Kasi may 25 minutes lang ako para tapusin siya. And then when it alarms, I have 5 minutes to refresh my mind, rest, and recollect my thoughts. Tapos I'll get started on another task. Personally, it works for me because yung mga mahahabang work sessions, like 3 hours dire-diretso ako mag-work, I don't find it productive because nawawalan ako ng creative juices. Especially for the jobs that need a lot of creative juices flowing, kailangan nagpapahinga tayo every once in a while. So try out Focus Booster because it may work for you, right? So Next is, this is also one of my favorite apps this quarantine. Sana makatulong din sa inyo. It's called KRISP. It's KRISP AI. So KRISP is an AI-based noise canceling app. So with a single click of a button, you can remove all types of background noise. You can both speak and listen without noise since the AI takes care of the speaker and the mic. So for KRISP, plug-in siya, ini-install mo sa laptop. Tapos what it does is, halimbawa, may maingay sa background mo, i-on mo lang siya, tapos mawawala yung ingay sa background mo. So, mga tumatahol na aso, yung mga umiiyak na bata, ganyan. So, all of those mawawala sila. So, I'm not sure. I hope that you guys can hear this, but let me optimize this. Please turn on your volume so that makita nyo kung ano yung difference. So, in here, we have a toggle. Ita-toggle ko siya every once in a while para makita nyo kung ano yung effect ng crisp when you guys are using it, kumpara sa maingay na background. All right, so let's start.
Meeting this coming Thursday at 10 a.m. in our office. Be sure to send me all the necessary files and the design materials prior to that.
All right, so did you guys hear that? So that was family noise. Tapos itinatoggle ko lang yung switch, tapos nawawala siya. Now let's hear a very common background noise as well. We have screaming child. Tingnan natin kung makukuha siya ng crisp.
The idea behind neural networks, or neural nets for short, is that we have nodes that have some connections between them. This is similar to the neurons in your brain and the synapses they form. To get a neural net to do something.
All right, so yes, it did take care of the screaming child, right? So if you guys are, for those who are talking about distractions, like yung mga maingay sa bahay, please go ahead and install KRISP. Actually paid siya, pero if you have a referral, you get to use it for free for 7 days. Pero pag ni-refer mo siya sa iba, you get 2 months of free service. So parang yung sa akin, shinare ko lang siya sa mga students ko. Tapos, free na yung crisp ko hanggang 2023. So, ganun lang ginawa ko. Now, let's listen to ito, barking dog. We always have this at home because, why not, right? We love dogs. So, let's hear if kaya niyang i-filter yung barking dog.
Good morning. I'm just calling to remind you that we have a meeting this coming Thursday at 10 a.m. in our office.
All right. So did you guys hear it, right? I hope that you guys heard the difference. But yes, it can filter noises like a barking dog, air conditioner, coffee machine, all of that it can filter. The only downside with Crisp is that minsan, pag sobrang ingay ng background mo, it tends to cancel your voice out as well. So minsan yung voice mo naka-cancel. So dapat medyo aware ka pa rin with all of the ambient sounds that are surrounding you or the distracting sounds that are surrounding you. Dapat hindi pa rin masyadong maingay kasi minsan, ikaw naman yung naka-cancel out. But essentially, if yung mga screaming child, barking dog, family noises, it can take care of it. And it's really great. I've used it a lot in my presentations. I'm using it right now so that if ever there is an ambient noise, hindi nyo siya maririnig. So I feel like this is very helpful for those who have a lot of background noises at home. So hopefully magamit nyo siya. Again, it's free for, I think, the first 7 days. But if you want to use it for more pa, you can just give others your referral code. Tapos whenever they install it, you guys get 2 months free. So ganun lang yung ginawa ko bilang wala akong budget pang install ng Crisp. What I just did was to share my referral code to a lot of people, and now I have it for free until 2023. All right, so those are just some of the tools that I feel like you guys can utilize if you're working from home. So for our last poll, I just want to know, Abby, if you can launch the poll. Have you guys tried any of the mentioned tools? So meron tayong 5, right? So you have CANVA, we have PIKTOCHART, we have TRELLO, we have Focus Booster, and we have, ano yung last one? KRISP, right? So have you tried any of the mentioned tools? Okay, I think we can end the poll. Let's see. Na-try nyo na ba sila? Let's wait for the results. Not yet. Okay, that's great. So for those who haven't tried it yet, please go ahead and download and check them out for yourselves. And I hope that they do make working from home easier and more productive for you guys. So thank you for those who responded. Now on to my last tip, because time is almost up. Sorry, I talked a lot. But last tip, and one of the most important tips as well, is take breaks and move around. So taking breaks while you guys are working from home, it's important, and it's not just important, it's critical to your sanity. Not just mental, but your physical sanity as well. Kasi diba, ever since we started working from home, ang dami nagko-complain na sakit ng likod kasi we don't have the proper chair. So taking breaks and moving around, it helps you guys. So at this time kasi we don't know how long this pandemic will last, and kahit aminin natin or hindi, sorry, we know that we will be home longer than we would want to. So if you live in a small space or medyo mas malit lang yung space mo sa bahay, just moving your chair from one place to another will already give your brain the perception that you're now in a new space. So if hindi mo naman kayang i-move yung chair mo kasi sorry, wala tayong pambili ng gaming chair kasi medyo mas mahal, di ba? Pwede namang you just move to one specific location to a different one. Or for those who are working on a desktop, perhaps you can just rearrange your desk area, add plants or whatnot, so that you can make it look a bit more different. So again, moving your desktop to an area also that has a lot of sunlight will also help because it'll make your workstation look brighter. All right. So, but the point is essentially you have to move around. You have to find spaces in your home where you're free to move around. Or halimbawa, kung naka-break ka, you can do simple desk exercises or a little bit of stretching here and there. So that'll help not just your physical health, but also your mental sanity. All right. So there, I think I've rounded up all of the tips. I just want to, round up all of the tips again before I end my presentation. Again, some of the tips that we have for productivity: create a home office, maintain a routine, create boundaries, very important, utilize tools, take breaks, and move around. So that's it. Abby, I think you're ready to take in questions.
Okay, so thank you so much for that presentation, Ochi. Personally, I find it hard to set boundaries sometimes,
Mhm.
since as you mentioned, we're just in the house. So it's good to have these kinds of reminders. I might be the moderator, but I feel like this was really targeted to me.
All right.
Okay, I think I know there's a lot of reactions towards the apps. I think everyone is so excited to try them all out. And someone did ask if we were being sponsored. So no, we are not sponsored by the different apps that we recommended. It would be cool, so we'd be influencers, but sadly, we are not yet in the level of influencers. So these are just these recommendations are just based on Oshi's personal experience and actually mine. So I could personally vouch for Canva. It has saved me a lot, so many times. And with that, we are now officially opening the floor for questions. I'll be reading the questions that were posted in the Q&A box. So if you guys want to, add in your questions, just type them in. Or if you want to have to boost maybe a question that was posed earlier, just like the submitted questions you'd want answered. And then just as a reminder for those who are watching via Facebook Live, you could also post in your questions and we will also be fielding them out. Okay, so now looking at the Q&A box, I'm skipping some that were actually answered during Achi's presentation, including like maintaining our focus. But I think this is an interesting one. So how do you avoid procrastination?
Procrastination. All right. So, admittedly, a lot of us have this problem, and personally, I also have I had this problem before because I felt like, um, I had the entire day to work on things, right? So, this is why I mentioned earlier. One of the hardest things about the tips that I will be mentioning today is self-control and discipline. Because ang difference when we were working in the office is we had a lot of physical items to actually remind us na this is work. So you have your time in, time out, you have a bay that is conducive for working, you have your coworkers around, they're all working. Pero pag sa bahay, ikaw lang mag-isa nag-work, di ba? Yung nanay mo nagluluto, yung tatay mo may ibang ginagawa. So a lot of times we procrastinate kasi parang hindi conducive yung environment for us to work. Right. That's why it helps if we have discipline, we have control, and we set our priorities early on within the day. As mentioned, if your shift is 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., you already set what you have to do within the day and you work on it. So if you guys are having a hard time starting or getting started on a task, what I really use is Focus Booster, just like what Abby mentioned. I'm sorry if it sounds like we're sponsored. I hope we're sponsored, as Abby mentioned, but I really just personally advocate for the products or the applications because they personally work for me. So, ang ginagamit ko is Focus Booster. Halimbawa, pagising ko alam mo yung tinatamad ka kasi kailangan mo lang bumangon tapos mag-work. What I do is immediately get started on Focus Booster and then put in all of the tasks that I have to do for the day and then start the timer. So, it doesn't just give me like a sense of urgency, but it gives me a sense of this is the only time that you have for for this task. So get along, get moving, get your ass up, and start getting work done. So I hope it helps. Pero try niyo yung focus booster. I hope that it helps you get things done. Procrastination is more of uh, a discipline really, or parang behavioral problem siya. So it is within you. Apps are there to help you out, but again, you have to instill it in your mind na just because you're working from home doesn't mean that you have the rest of the day to work on it. Not really, kasi dun siya nagiging unhealthy when you think that you have the rest of the day to work on a task. No, you only have 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. to work on a task. So I hope that answers the question.
Perfect. Okay, another one. I'm seeing some like variations of this question, so I'll just like combine them all. So someone asked, how can we pursue personal growth or maybe skills building during this difficult time?
Personal growth. Okay, so this is very interesting because I think I mentioned earlier, personal growth is very vague, or it's very subjective. If you're talking about personal growth, like things na hindi mo dapat or hindi related sa work that you want to improve for yourself, may it be, ako personally, ang ginawa ko was, as I mentioned, plants, right? So I didn't know anything about plants. Tapos sobrang hirap bumili ng plants right now because you can't see them. You only have photos on Instagram and Facebook when I buy. But what I did was I really set aside time to read about plants. So anong plants ba yung healthy for indoors, ganyan? Ano ba yung pwedeng pang indoors? Kasi maraming plants kailangan nila ng maraming araw, di ba? So I really set aside time. Nasa sayo naman siya. If you really are set on pursuing something for your personal growth, it can be taking care of plants, it can be cooking. Di ba nga kaya nagkaroon tayo ng sobrang daming TikTok chefs because they spent a lot of time working on these personal passion projects that they have. So really essentially, I think the first tip that you have to do is set aside time and really decide on what you want to pursue regarding your personal growth. Pwede naman siyang, what do you want to learn, right? So you have to start first with what do you want to learn, what do you want to pursue, what do you want to do as a side hobby, what do you want to contribute to your personal growth. And once you've decided on it, you can do your research. Research plays a huge part in making your passion project or your personal growth a success. So you make sure that you do your research and then make concrete plans and just make it happen. So I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, and if I could just add, I think some people easily get frustrated. I know I do. When if ever their passion project doesn't really pan out the first time they attempt it. So I think it's also important for anyone who's testing out. They want to be a chef or they want to try new recipes. You just I think keep at it. It's possible that you don't nail that specific project the first time around. So for those who want to pursue a new talent or a new skill, I think consistent practice aside from research and as Ochi mentioned, really dedicating or focusing that time would also help for you to develop that skill or that passion project.
Yes, I also
Okay.
just like to add to what Abby mentioned. Yes, keep at it. As I mentioned, I already killed like 5 plants, right? But here I am still looking on Instagram on what new plants to buy because, just because 5 of my plants died, sad to say, but I still really want to get better at it because I want to make condo living really livable for me. That's a part of my personal growth. Make the small space that I have livable for me. So I am really just keeping at it, even if sometimes the plants don't really like me. I still like them. So thank you, Abby, for the additional input.
Okay. I think another question I'm seeing like some variations of is the idea of social isolation. So someone said social isolation or maybe cabin fever is a common problem in working from home. So what are some suggestions to overcome this type of problem or issue?
Okay, yes, that's true. If you guys listened to our previous webinar, I think that was the other week, we do have a webinar on positivity, but just in case you missed it, some of the things that I do when it comes to cabin fever is I check on my friends. I don't just wait on them to check on me, but I check on my friends a lot, and then they do check on me a lot as well because I live with my sisters, and even if I get to talk to them, I still yearn for that feeling that I want interaction. Sometimes when we're in a meeting, I think one good tip is we implemented this in our team before when we were just starting to work from home. We were just keeping to ourselves. Kung ano lang ginagawa namin, yun kami-kami lang. And it was okay. But then after a month in quarantine, I started telling one of my teammates that Alu, I need human interaction. And then we suggested to have like this weekly meeting wherein we check in with each other. So it's not just check in about work. But yes, we do check in about work. What is your progress about work? But we also check in about each other's personal happenings, like what happened last week to you? How is your COVID situation in your area? Ganyan. So it helps if hindi lang siya purely work. It's okay to check in with your teammates that are about personal things. Hindi lang siya purely work, because if it's just purely work, wala na, diba? Sobrang stress na tayo, it's super anxious. We don't really get the work-life balance that we want. But we check in with each other. So parang, alam mo yun, parang nasa office pa rin kami, albeit in a virtual setting. Other tips that, teams in my office have done is meron silang weekly parang check-in that's totally non-work related. So they have like game night, ganyan. They have like inumans and whatnot. But it's just really any form of checking on with each other para you guys get to inspire, get to be more positive, and get to uplift each other, kasi everyone's really just feeling sad given the pandemic, right? But if you guys want to have a more in-depth thoughts or parang tips on how to deal with cabin fever, we do have another webinar that's coming up. It's the part 2 of our positivity workshop. I think baka sa September. I'm just not sure, but just go to Trend Micro Careers to check for the schedule. But if you guys want more tips on that, please do check out that webinar.
Another question I'm seeing pop up is, I think we definitely want to establish our boundaries when it comes to work, but I think some of the challenges with that may also lie in maybe conveying those boundaries. So like in your mind, you're like, yes, I'm just gonna work like 8 to 5 or 9 to 6 or whatever your shift would be. But of course, sometimes when you talk to now maybe your boss or your office mate who's messaging, as you mentioned, like messaging you at like 9 p.m. So like I think maybe that's one of the questions they did post is like, how do you convey, or like how do you approach someone who doesn't really maybe know or acknowledge that sort of boundary that you set up?
Okay. So for this one, I think I failed to mention it earlier. When it comes to creating boundaries, it's also a must that you have to set expectations. Kasi again, before sa office, hindi natin kailangan mag-set ng expectations because our office is really meant for working, right? So ang gagawin talaga natin doon magtrabaho. Pero pagdating sa bahay, walang ganong expectation kasi ang bahay naman talaga, it's for sleeping, it's for leisure, it's for relaxation. So ang mga tao sa bahay, expectation talaga nila doon, mag-relax, matulog, ganyan. So now that we have, or we're in the middle of a pandemic, that sort of dynamics change, right? Because we have to work from home. So hindi naman lahat ng tao sa bahay nagwo-work. So for it to actually work for you, and both ways, hindi lang sa iyo, or not just in your own discipline or self-control, you have to set expectations with your family members. For example, you can do things like tell your mom or dad na parang, oh, pa, ma, ito po yung shift ko within the day, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Tapos may call po ako pag gantong oras. So you can just like post that sa ref para alam nila kung kailan time sila pwedeng maging maingay, ganon, kailan sila pwedeng, or kailan sila maging dapat tahimik and whatnot. So for example, in our household, tatlo kami ng kapatid ko dito and we all work from home. So yung isang sister ko, she's also doing online learning and she's in law school. So can you imagine all the three of us in our tiny cramped condo. Tapos kailangan namin mag-work from home lahat, 'di ba? So what we do is we just set expectations with each other. So before, parang yung kapatid ko Zoom call siya, loudspeaker talaga. So parang kaming lahat nabubulabog, right? So what we did was we set proper expectations. I told my sister that it's pretty taxing if I hear the meeting all the time. So I lent her my wireless headset and we kind of just made it work. Set expectations that I have a training at this time. Can we be quiet? Ganun lang. So again, when it comes to creating boundaries and setting expectations, communication is key. Again, the people that we live with, these are family members. Hindi naman nila gugustuhin, diba, bumagsak tayo. Hindi naman nila talaga inoo, or they don't intentionally make noises so that they can make us look bad at our jobs. That's not their intent. It's just that we don't set proper expectations. That's why mas mahirap siya, especially in a space wherein communal siya, tapos meant talaga siya for family time, relaxation, leisure. Kaya we have to set proper expectations and we have to communicate it in a way that they would understand. So I hope that answers your question.
Okay. And then I think this is our last because I think we've overextended.
Yeah, sorry about the time.
No, I mean I think people really wanted to have this discussion, but I think for the last question, the one I'm seeing a lot of versions of it. I think you mentioned, like living in a condo, working with a condo with all of your siblings. So they were asking for tips, like how do you carve maybe that specific space just for work when you're living in maybe smaller spaces, or you're living maybe with other people. So how do you go about carving a specific space that's just really for work, just so that you could, once you go there, okay, this is just my workspace, I'm just gonna
Mhm.
work here and not get distracted.
All right. So for us, specifically, our condo is like a two-bedroom loft type. So for me, my workstation is in my bedroom. So that leaves that space entirely for me. I have like a door. For my sister, she works sa living room, so sa baba, and she works there with my other sister. So what we did was we have like a small table. I think you guys can find this in Lazada or Shopee, or if you don't already have it, a small table like that is already like a dedicated workspace. Kasi alam mo na pag nandun ka sa table na yon, hindi ka kakain, it's just purely your workspace. So it's those small tables na parang they're like 700 or 600, and then you can adjust the length also to your chair para hindi siya masyadong masakit sa likod. Personally, I have two of those kasi I like to bring them around when I move my workstation just so have a different surrounding, or parang iba yung nakikita ko. But those small tables actually can already be considered as a home office. So you have that small table, and again, the best kind of office space is the office space that we can afford, right? Hindi naman dapat gagawa pa tayo ng room or whatnot, but the best office space is the best office space that we can afford. So if yun lang yung afford natin, okay lang din naman. So I also have that small table, and I just know that when I'm sitting at that small table or in front of that small table, I can, work. So another tip also, if you guys are in a small space, it's like in our condo, may mga sarili kaming corners. So yung kapatid ko dun siya, yung isang kapatid ko dun siya malapit sa corner ng window, yung isang kapatid ko malapit siya sa kitchen table, mahilig kasi kumain. So, malapit just the kitchen table. But like essentially, you can assign corners in your house because corners are also very helpful if you guys are, using it as a dedicated home space. But again, kung wala kayong corners or if the space is not enough, just like a simple chair and that small table that you guys can get from Lazada or Shopee, that's already enough. As long as you have the right mindset that when you sit in front of that small table, it's just work, 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 and you just leave when you have to take your desk exercises or your breaks. So there.
Okay. And I think that wraps up our Q&A portion. So once again, I'd like to thank our speaker and experts for that informative and awesome presentation. So before we end this session, I'd like to remind everyone that our next webinar topic would be shifting gears to cyberspace learning. So that will be on September 3rd at 10 a.m. again. So if you want to get to save the details, you could just take a snapshot of this QR code. Please also remember to visit our Facebook pages, Trend Micro Careers Philippines and Click Right for additional announcements. I know some people have been asking this in the chat box. So the key takeaways for this session and access to the recording will also be posted there. So please like and follow these pages to stay updated. And remember, please answer the survey after leaving the session to get your certificate of attendance. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Ochi. I hope everyone has a nice day today. Thank you and stay safe.
Thank you, everyone. Bye. Stay safe.